Hey y'all, we're live. I've got Corey Lambert in the house today, and he's got this magnificent giant over here. What was it? What would that score? It was
163 gross.
163 gross, dude. I got to put my hands on it a minute ago, and I'm telling you, that thing's a freak. It's awesome. Um, Make sure if there is some kind of a weird noise, we're hearing a weird noise on our mics. We're not sure why we're hearing it right now, but we are. But if you guys have any feedback that says it sounds off or anything, hit me up on the live chat, and we'll try to fix it for y'all as best as we can. We're deer hunters, not tech people.
For sure.
Anyway, we'll jump right into this. So, Corey hunts a property that's just under 19 acres and has shot some pretty awesome bucks off of it in the time he's had it. You want to share a little bit about what it is that you like to do with that 19 acres, man, and what you plan on trying to do with it? Floor's yours, man.
Okay, so my wife and I bought that property in 2017.
Oh.
So we had no history with it. We just scrolled through on I think it was on Zillow or something and saw it for sale. We were like, I gotta have it.
Right.
We planned on building a house there actually, but ended up having some issues. It was too expensive to get all the way back there.
Right.
Which luckily it turned out to be a great hunting property.
Yeah, no, you lucked out not building a house there, dude. Because I'm telling you, not very many people shoot stuff like that right there on 19 acres or less. Most people don't even shoot stuff like that on 200-acre farms. It's rare to see. 160 inches is a lot of bone, man.
Yeah,
it's a lot of bone. And he snapped off a few little, kickers and points in there too. He would have had a little bit more in there, but dude, just a tank of a buck. He almost didn't fit in a studio. Like, if you guys, obviously you guys are seeing it right now. Like, this thing is like bigger than the table, but we managed to get him in here. But yeah, so back to what you're saying. You got 19 acres there, or a little under 19 or whatever. So when you're going into those small properties like that, was there ever a game plan, or did you just decide to go in and see what it was, and then it became something bigger?
First year, it was just go in, get some trails put in. Luckily, it had a log road that went through most of it. Just set some stands, put some cameras out, and just see what was going on. And that first year, I covered that place in cameras. I bet I had 20 cameras on that place.
Had to see where they were moving, man.
And
did you get a good footage that year? Any good bucks?
I actually, the first buck I took on there was 132 inches.
Oh, nice.
And it was that year. And I had so many pictures of that deer. And it was the biggest one on the property. And I was like, you know what? At the time, I was like, I'm just going to focus on one deer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the deer.
Right.
So, I had him damn near pinpointed to where I knew everything that he was doing. And that was still pretty early in my hunting career.
Yeah.
So I was making all those mistakes trying to get down on him. And it was, I ended up actually finally killing him November 5th or 6th.
So right, pretty well in that like pre-rut peak, where they're moving through that draw. Because the way that property, I've been to the property, and I'm telling you, the way that thing sets up, man, that is just like, it's a dream. It's a dream for a ridge, man. It's just awesome.
Funny part is, it's almost the exact same spot I killed this one.
Really?
Almost the exact same spot I killed the one I killed last year.
No joke. So you've got it pretty well pinpointed too. So
same hillside.
So, honestly, that's pretty smart though. Like picking one spot, especially with something that's a smaller acre property, you got to figure out things like that. Where do I need to sit instead of rushing or going in, or like I think like with my property I have out there, that I hunt on over my parents' farm, and it's so big, but like sometimes it's like hard to get two spots that I really do want to hunt without bumping everything.
Yeah.
That's like kind of an advantage of those little properties, where it's like, where you got to go set. You don't have to trek in way back in there. You don't have to, you just know, like, I got to go there.
My disadvantage is I'm one of those, adult onset hunters. I didn't start hunting until right before my son was born.
Right.
So this 22 season will be my 7th season hunting.
You're doing pretty good. For 7 seasons of hunting, bro, you're doing real good. So like, when you're where you got your stand positioned, is that something that you took in consideration when it came to going in and out of that property as far as access for it?
The first couple of years, no. The year I killed him, I actually made several new accesses to where I could get to that stand better.
Gotcha.
Without going around bedding areas. I could just avoid deer altogether and just sneak in there on the right wind. But the first couple of years, I mean, I was on YouTube nonstop watching, you know, the big channels, Midwest Whitetail.
Oh yeah.
The Hunting Public, you know, Seek One, all that stuff. I was
Them boys at the
all
hunting
into
public.
it. And I was reading Bow Hunting Magazine, every issue I could find from front to back. I'm like, I'm decades behind other people.
Yeah, yeah. Like but the thing is, you know, like, and I've run into that. Like, I do a lot of public land hunting early season, with quite a few different people, and that's predominantly what I like try to explain to a man. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been hunting a long time. I was fortunate enough. I grew up, my grandparents, or not, well, not really my grandparents, but they had a great farm. But my uncles, they took me out. My dad would take me out during gun season. You know, my uncles taught me how to use a bow, man. Like they're like, get out there and do it like a man. You know what I mean? Instead of using a gun. But you know, that beginner, I don't think there's that much of a lag. You know what I mean? I've met hunters that have been hunting less time that are far advanced than me. You know, and
that wealth of information that's
yes.
out there now,
yes,
compared to what it was.
Yes, like you used to have to read a magazine.
And luckily, you know, the family I married into, a majority of them all hunt, and I'm just absorbing everything that comes out of their mouths.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I started this channel here, man. Just put more tool belts. You know, like you can put more tools in that tool belt, man. Like there's so many ways to hunt. And you were talking about the hunting public earlier, and you're watching all these different things. You know, I didn't ground hunt for years. Like it was something I didn't do. Like I didn't even think of it. You know what I mean? I'm like, why would I get on the ground eye level with these things? You know, but I watched a few episodes of Zach Farrenball go in there and do that. Yeah. And that dude's sitting there hunting out of creeks and shooting, you know, 160-inch deer too. And it's like, wow, you know. And so the more I got to like watching different, you know, Seek One, all of them have something to offer. I think every hunter has something to offer. And I think being able to go into that and have that lane where you can ask somebody, you know, or they have a place to go and go, man, that didn't work for me there. You know, where can I find it? You're exactly right. There's so many outlets now that make the whole hunting world a lot more, you know, together.
I mean, all that information just helped me make that little property that much better, you know.
Yeah.
I went from shooting that 130-inch deer to 163-inch deer in 3.5 years.
That's insane. That really is insane. So another thing about that property that you were talking about, I know that I'd only went one time with you there when we was in turkey season a few years back, but you've got like where you first set up. I remember you had that like it was like a box blind or big box stand down there in that bottom. Did you ever have any luck in that thing other than does, or did you actually see any good bucks in that area?
That one.
He said that one. Fair enough. So is that where you've been? So that's where you've been predominantly hunting in that general area, or do you hunt that ridge?
Surprisingly, no. I actually took that box blend down and moved just that platform to a different spot.
Okay.
I pretty much gave up on that food plot strictly for the access portion because I have to go through the entire property to get to it.
Right. So
that year that I killed him was the first time I'd ever seen a deer in that box blend. I didn't have any other wind to hunt another stand, and I was like, well, it works for that box blind, I guess. And I just snuck down there and was like, I've never seen a deer in here. I'm not going to see a deer. I ended up seeing 30.
Wow. Just by changing your access point. Like that's kind of crazy.
I went down and sat in it, and I mean, does and little bucks running. I mean, it was pre-rut. They were going crazy.
Right.
And
is that morning or evening?
Evening.
Evening.
And it was right before dark. I'm packing up, and I just look over to my left, and all I see is legs. I'm like, what is that? And he finally came down. He was licking a branch, and he came down. I'm like, oh, that's a
tank.
That is a big deer. And he put his head down because he was behind some bushes, and I was like, that's a really big buck. And I tried grunting at him a little bit. He'd look over at me and take a couple steps and kind of lick the air, but it was all in my advantage, you know. It was blowing away from both of us. And he finally just gave up and walked off.
Did you actually you actually shot him? It wasn't the first time you seen him. It
the
was
next morning.
The next morning. Okay. That's insane. Like that's kind of crazy though. You know, you talk about a lot of people that do have, smaller tract properties, and that is like a thing now. It's people are shooting nice deer off of 7-acre properties. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of them talk about that, just literally access, like access. And I mean, would you say that would probably be one of the biggest reasons you even got a shot at this guy?
Access and pressure.
Okay. What do you mean by pressure?
Just ground scent going in, and if you educate any deer on that property, it's so small. I mean, you're screwed.
Yeah.
For a while.
Right.
I mean, you got to give it some time to rest, and I stopped hunting in the woods for a long time.
Really?
When I start hunting, it's just strictly a field edge. I go out just every once in a while and sit in the field edge until mid to late October, and then I only hunt when the wind is perfect for certain stands.
Gotcha. I mean, that's something that me and Chad touched on a few weeks ago. We was actually looking at a property up by Iowa, and I just told him, I said, dude, it was huge valleys. It was just, it was great. You could see tracks like crazy. And I told him, I was like, how are we going to hunt this though? I mean, the wind down in here is, it's going to be great, as far as seeing deer, but there ain't no way we're going to hunt it. Cause there's, this wind's going to get us every time. The whole time we were down there, I was watching it. I was dropping milkweed and just watching it just pull all the way back around. And when I went down to your property that time, I thought, man, dude, that'd be hard to hunt down there. Cause
the bottoms are extremely hard to
hunt.
The mid to higher ridges is money.
Right.
Especially if you can understand thermals and wind direction.
Thermal's a big thing, man. That's something growing up that I had no idea I was happening.
I just got into this last year, is trying to really understand how thermals carry your scent.
Right.
And I'm still just barely understanding.
I know, dude. It's like every time you just got to scratch the surface, and it just seems like there's so many rabbit holes you can go into when it comes to just diving into a specific style of hunting or what you use in your tool belt, and like thermals though, they are no joke. Like they are no joke. Bust you almost every time if you're not in the right spot on that ridge or next to a creek. I've even seen creeks pull, like get down by a creek bed and it'll pull the opposite way the wind's going. And it's like, how is that happening? It's wild, but it does. I've been busted like that more than once. And, as a kid growing up, I didn't think anything. I was like, how did he just see me or something, but nah, he's probably smelling me way before he even see me.
Yep.
They say these big mature bucks, well, any deer really. I was reading an article and they said that they can smell you up to a quarter mile away after you've been in an area for more than 5 minutes. I didn't know that their noses were that potent if the wind drifts it that way. Now, how much truth there is to that, I don't know, because we don't know deer like that, I don't think. But I mean, it's kind of wild to think about. Like they did different tests and it was a quarter mile away. I was like, good Lord, that's a long way to be busted. In that wind, you talking about that wind.
That's hard to beat.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. Chad was saying that last week, man. He said, look, you go in them woods, anybody can beat a whitetail. It doesn't matter what kind of a whitetail it is. If you can beat a whitetail with a bow, you're doing something. Like it doesn't matter the size, and all that, everything that does to a person. That size does matter to a person after you've been hunting for a long time, I feel, because you do have that, you hold yourself to that expectation. 5.5-year-olds, 6.5-year-olds, it's hard to pass 150-inch 4.5-year-old. I've seen it, but it don't happen very often, especially out here. Everybody and their mom comes out here and hunts in Missouri.
Yeah. So I've pretty much made the rule that my cutoff is 4.5. If he's 4.5 and he's 100 inches, I'm going to shoot him.
Okay.
If he's 4.5 and he's 200 inches, I'm going to
shoot him. Right.
Just it's a small property, surrounded by other hunters.
Mm-hmm. I
just know that it's not going to make it.
Right. Well, 4.5's tough.
And, a 4.5-year-old deer is a mature deer.
Yes.
I'm going to sling an arrow. It makes me happy to shoot a 4.5-year-old deer.
Right.
So that's pretty much where I've stuck that at.
Well, last year I did the same thing. There was 3 bucks on the farm. One of them was a big bully buck, which is one I ended up shooting last year. And I'd had him the year before. And I couldn't remember. I think they said he was, I don't remember if I think it was 4.5 is what he was. But I seen him last year, and he was such a bully, I almost shot him last year. But I had that same thought process in my head. It's like, don't do that. Like, I know he's running, bigger deer off, but he was a he was a big body deer. Iraq wasn't crazy, but he was just hefty, and he was a bully. He pushed everybody around, and man, I tell you what though, like that 4.5-year-old does make you feel good. You know what I mean? Knowing that he's had time to, grow a pedigree himself. You know what I mean? And that's kind of why I like doing the whole 4.5-year-old thing. I like knowing that deer had time on that farm to continue what he was, his breeding, and everything like that. I have a hard time shooting younger bucks. Like it's just, even when I was younger, it was never about the rack. It was, man, it's a young deer. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know. It was never really a thing that I was interested in, was shooting young deer.
I did it the first couple of years, and I was like, it wasn't really challenging to do. So
Right. Yeah, that is huge too.
Especially because I rifle hunted in 2015, didn't shoot a buck. I shot a doe. It was my first year hunting. That next year, I shot 2 bucks, and then 2017, I killed that 132-inch deer with a bow, and I'm like, this bow hunting thing's pretty awesome. And then I saw, I don't know how many younger bucks walk by. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to shoot younger bucks anymore. Just cause watching them,
Right.
One, you can learn a lot about how deer go through the property and what they're doing, and 2, it's just awesome to watch young bucks walk through.
True. To touch on what you were just saying there, that's a pretty cool tip there. Really, watch them younger bucks, because they're gonna do what the bigger ones do. They're gonna pretty much tattle. You know what I mean? They're gonna tell you what a big buck's doing most of the time. They'll even tell you a lot of times, like on my farm out there, I've got a lot of view. There's a lot of big open fields out there. And so I watched that buck that I shot this last year. Same thing with him. I watched 3 other bucks go through that one spot, younger bucks. And I'm like, dude, I'm in the wrong spot. I literally climbed out of my stand, and went closer. And then I was successful in that sense. But that was the first buck I've ever shot, or deer I've ever shot on opening day. I've never shot an opening day. I've gone every year opening day on both seasons and never shot anything first day. But that one was kind of special in that sense of, like you said, I watched them younger bucks come through. They're going to teach you. I was watching a thing of Dan Infalt the other day, was talking about that same thing. Like, there's where these does go. I'll trek back here 1.5 miles to get where they're at, and go all the way around, and then sit in a spot where I can see a long way. And it does 100% help, let you know where they're moving through. And the younger ones don't pick up on me and you. You know what I mean? A lot of times. So like, even when we screw up, we don't screw up in the sense of, on a guy like this, we've done it on a younger buck, that he don't care or he don't understand. I think there's Coco coming in here trying to get some love. Our old dog. Go on, Coco.
Yeah, and those older bucks, rarely do they give you a second chance. Mm-hmm. Those younger bucks are kind of like, oh, I better get out of here. And then you could see them 20 minutes later.
Yeah. So I had a giant on the farm last year. I sent you pictures of him, and he outsmarted me. He's outdone it 2 years in a row. I mean, it just blows my mind. They hit that 4.5-year-old age, and it's just like a different deer. Like, if they hit that 4.5-year-old, you're not hunting a regular deer anymore. You're hunting something that's been shot at. He's been bumped. He's been everything under the sun. So it's like they talk about that core, shrinking. And the only time of the year that they get out of that core a lot of times is during that rut phase.
Yep.
And we have that whole, summer home, fall home thing. I believe that's probably the hardest part about trying to gather intel on your farm, because the same people, or the same bucks, not people, same deer that are on that farm in the summertime, they're never there during that early fall. Like, they might come back during the, late October, early November, but they're hardly ever there. Right at September, the beginning of September, it's like you're watching everything that you were excited about leave. And it's like, dang it. You said you didn't hold a lot of deer though, other than does on your spot.
Yeah, there's not very many spots for bucks. I mean, it's almost 100% does that hang out over there, which in the rut, it works out pretty dang good. But
right.
For any other time, trying to get near a buck bedding, it's on the neighbors.
Right.
But
so yours is mainly woods though. You don't have really any.
It's 100%.
It's 100% woods. And okay, yeah. I know there's fields on both sides. Ag on the left side. Well, if you're looking at your property from the front left side, it's got pretty good amount of ag. Where do you think they set, or where do you think they bed as far as neighboring properties? Is it super far? Is it close to the draw, or is it?
Some of them are close. There's those are cedars. There's a cedar patch that they like to bed in sometimes, and that's where the last 3 bucks that I've killed off there have come from.
Right out of that cedar patch. Is it a specific time of the year too that you're seeing a lot of action in that cedar patch?
Mostly the early rut. I try not to go back there at all.
Right, right. You were saying that earlier. You don't like to go in there very often,
Yeah.
you know, which I think when you're hunting a smaller property, you got to do that. Like you don't have that stand location that you can switch a lot. You know, you got to be pretty much stuck where you want to be in that zone.
Where those good bedding areas
Yes.
are, I don't go near it. So, there's a few other spots. There's another neighbor closer to me. He's got some, I guess, thicker areas than unbelievably thicker areas than what I have.
Like CRP type thick or like
No, just a lot more
underbrush.
undergrowth.
Yeah, gotcha.
I mean, I have a lot, and it gets pretty thick in there, especially in the springtime. But I guess it's just because they really don't go back there at all.
Right.
Or they haven't for several years, and it's perfect for the bucks to bed there.
Yeah, because nothing wants to go in there, you know, especially with, you know, does and having little ones. That's why that ridge is probably why you're packed all the time, because that's pretty, like, from what I remember being out there at that place, it was like you could see quite a ways. You know what I mean? Like as far as if you're standing there, you got, you know, you're even mid-ridge, you can see quite a ways. And that's probably why them does are all around and them bucks are just like, nah, I'd rather go sit somewhere quiet, you know?
And there's a few spots where the runoff from the fields actually create drop-offs on a couple of those ridges. So they feel safe because nothing can get to them from that side.
Right,
and they
right.
can see the other way.
Gotcha.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, we got a cool little tool here. You can like draw it out, man. Give us a little like thought process so we can kind of get in your head a little bit. That property's like a triangle, isn't it? If I remember right, like or kind of like a triangle, or is it just straight?
Kind of like
square?
a rectangle, except for one side's a little slanted.
Slanted. Okay.
Yeah. So my property is basically like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So over here there's ag. This whole thing is ag. And I actually have a creek that snakes through.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to hunt that creek
Yeah.
because it's all valleys.
Yeah.
And all that wind swirls through there, so I try to stay out of there for the most part. And there's a ridge.
Do you notice a lot of deer using that creek?
They
Is there
actually,
a
they
majority
actually
of
bed
track?
along the creek.
Really? In the little thickets on like in the little inlets?
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
I've
seen
they
does
bed
do
in
that
here
a lot.
and they bed right here. It's nuts.
So, and does that creek drop off like pretty harsh, like right when you get to it? Is it pretty deep or is it?
It's there's parts of it that are about knee deep, but the banks, some of the banks are especially around these bends that are like 10 foot.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I've seen bucks. That's probably why during the rut it's amazing down in that area because they'll push them does right to those edges where they won't try to get out of there.
Yeah.
And then that's awesome.
So there's this ridge that comes along here and another one that goes this way.
Okay.
And so there's that cedar thicket over here, and I have a stand that sits right here, pretty close to the property line. But I'll actually sneak in and then come down here, and there's this. It's super, like I was telling you about those drop offs, because it has a runoff that comes from this field and this field.
Okay.
And I'll sneak down into this drop off, and then I'll climb up here and get to the stand, and there's actually doe bedding right here. So
you predominantly hunting northwest wind.
Yeah, when I hunt this, it drops off pretty good this way, and on a northwest wind, those bucks like to come right on that downwind side, and it is money every single time.
That's awesome. Downwind, yeah, you got that doe bedding right at your back, right at your back.
I mean, they try to just sneak right along here, and they're just scent checking the whole way across, having no idea I'm there, and I mean it's money.
Yeah, obviously it works out. Obviously.
This other ridge works out pretty well too because there's doe bedding back here, and sometimes the bucks will try to travel along this way to get out to the ag.
Yeah,
from bedding.
Yep.
And I mean, I hunt this sometimes on south south winds because it's just a drop off. So hopefully, mostly in the morning, I'm hoping that my thermals kind of lift it.
Gotcha.
So I'm 20, 25 feet in the air. Hopefully
Right.
my scent just goes up. And for the most part, it's worked out because I almost killed a 140-inch deer right here
Really?
the day before him.
Oh, that's right. You was telling me. Was that the big? It was like an 8, wasn't it, or a big 8 or something like that? Yeah, dude. Even 140-inch 8's big. Like the whole 8-point thing. Like you shoot a 140-inch 8er. That's a big buck. You know what I mean? That's a huge difference. Yeah, it is. I've got a buddy that's shot a few of them, and actually, there's a guy that's going to be coming on. He's out of Boone County, actually, and dude, you ought to see that 8 is insane. Like it's bigger than my shoulders. I fit inside of it. Like I couldn't. He sent me trail cam pictures of it early last year, and he said, "What do you think of that guy?" You know, and I'm like, "Dude, holy crap! Like that thing is giant. He's just impressive." And my cousin Matt, he actually had a really, really, really nice 8-point that he found both sheds to. That was huge. But he hunts Illinois, so they got some big deer over there.
Oh yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there. No, I mean, dude, Missouri is probably one of the like realistically, if you're gonna hunt public land, I mean, this is it's probably one of the best to come and do it because there's quite a bit of it. You can get away from everybody, and tags aren't ridiculous. Like you can buy over counter. My buddy Ben came out last year during late muzzleloader and. He's like, I just want to fill my freezer. In Washington, they get one deer, and yeah, one deer. Like and it can be. I think they can't even shoot whitetails or Colombian whitetails. I don't believe where he's at in his portion. So they're blacktail, and then muleys. But the blacktail, that's a whole nother ball game. I can't wait to go out and hunt a blacktail because from what I've been told, them things will just sit down. Like when you jump them, like the underbrush is so thick out there, they won't run. They'll just sit down. My buddy even said they'll crawl up under logs and like they'll just excellent it. Like they'll see you and they just boom, and then you don't even know where they're at. Like so that that's going to be one of those things that's going to be awesome. But when you only get one and you get to come to Missouri and it's $65 to shoot a doe,
yeah,
dude, that's sweet. You know what I mean? Like and you get 2 any deer tags with a bow. I mean that's hard to beat. Kansas is like 500. Illinois is way up there too, 500. I'm not sure what Iowa is, but I'm sure it's way up there too.
Depending on where it's at, it takes about 4 years to get a tag up there too.
Yeah, out-of-staters are hard to get a tag up there. Yeah. I'm gonna switch back to this other view. Yeah. Actually, I got a photo reel of you with that buck. Let's see. That's your 2020, right? Yeah. So there's a few of those, which you can't see it. I get to look at them. You get to see them a lot, but for our viewers anyway, this is actually, well, pretty much moments after you shot that buck. There's one photo I wish I would have got on here because it was hilarious. Still, I don't know why I didn't put it on there. I don't know. I thought I had it on there, but there's like a picture and you're just like holding your hands like, oh, dude, that thing. So like, what was that moment like when you walked up on him? Like,
so
that dude's.
Those photos were taken by an unfortunate buddy of mine.
Really?
Because the night before, I had told him that I'd seen this deer, and he's like, "Well, man, I'm off tomorrow. Holler at me if you shoot anything. I'll come help you get it out." Well, unfortunately for him, that fell in the deepest, nastiest hole on the property. We had to drag it out. But I shot it that morning, and I texted him. And I never looked at the rack of the deer. I just saw the body, and I smoked him, watched him run off, and I never saw him go down. So I was just like, "Hey, man, I shot a pretty decent one. I'm getting ready to head home. I'll just meet you there." He's like, "Okay, buddy. Yeah, no problem." He met me at my house. We rode out there. We found the blood trail, walked up on it. He said, "I thought you said it was decent." I was like, "I thought it was."
No, he's definitely decent. He's more than decent. No, that's an incredible animal, man.
It took a minute for it to finally set in.
Oh, I guarantee it.
I finally got my hands on him and pulled him up, and I was just like, "What did I do?"
Yeah. No, that dude's a tank. Well, the year before, I think it was the year before, maybe. You were talking about a buck that was out there that you showed me a picture of, and I was like, holy cow. And that buck ended up being, I can't remember who ended up even shooting that dang deer. It was like a 190-inch deer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. That dude another year would have been, oh, man.
I don't think he would have gotten any bigger.
He wouldn't have made another year. No. You don't think he gotten bigger? Him?
He may have gotten a little bit bigger. He was 6.5.
Oh, okay. So he was an old buck then.
Yeah.
And that's, man, you can see it on his head, man. He's just got such a huge head. Like that deer is so big. He's so big.
Cow.
Yeah, he's a miniature cow. Dude, your buddy had to be like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you, but man, that's gonna suck to get out of that hole. That's gonna suck real bad."
Worst part is he fell underneath a log. We
Really,
had to it was just a deadfall. We had to move the tree to get him out. I don't know how he wedged himself underneath there.
really.
So some of those early pictures of just us looking at it, he's underneath the log, and then the other ones when I'm holding him, we finally moved the log off of him to get him
Really?
up.
So he did try to go up underneath, or maybe he fell into it. I don't know.
I don't know. He just right under that log.
That's hilarious. That's crazy. Another buck that I've got pictures of it too, that you harvested this last year. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Your 2021, oh yeah, 2021 buck was a big eight. What? So you want to talk about him, or we can, have you back on for when he's done? Well, obviously we'll have you back on when he's done, but that's an incredibly big buck too. Like he was really, really nice. So that was the same area.
Exact same stand, exact same scenario.
Really?
Exact same yardage. I mean, it was the same path that this buck took.
Really?
I mean, I looked right over at the same spot he was standing there, and there was that big 8, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me! It's gonna happen again." He walked right in, same spot.
No joke. So like, okay, so biggest thing for the success on this, smaller track property really is just honing in on that one spot, or two spots that you have that you're not tracking in deep, you're not pushing. You learned all that the first time, or first couple years going in. What hurt you? So like the key to that success, really, to me, sounds like just having that, just your access, man, 100% your access.
Access and pressure, and just understanding how the property works, and that was 100% reading articles by Bill Winke and listening to the guys from Midwest Whitetail and the bow hunter die guys, all those people that you can just absorb all that wealth of information on YouTube and stuff that really just helped me understand how the properties work.
Right.
And it just, like Bill Winke will not hunt certain stands until a certain time of the year, and I'm like, that's a really good idea.
Yep, I've seen him doing it in plenty of episodes.
It works perfect.
So, on your farm, how many different stand locations do you have?
4.
4. Okay. 4,
and then I have permission on one of the properties just in front of mine, about right here. But it's just a field edge, and 90% of the hunts that I do are right there.
Gotcha.
From opening day to mid-October.
So do you do that just specifically to see where the deer movement is, and if it's the same or if it's changed or adapted or anything like that?
See where they're coming out to go into the ag fields, and then if I get one close enough, I'll pop a doe or something.
Right. Is that something you do too? Do you even try to thin doe herd out early season, or a lot of people do, but some don't?
Because it's such a small property, I don't try to manage does that much, because plenty of my neighbors shoot does.
Yeah.
I just try to fill the freezer up real quick, and then I can focus on finding one good buck.
See, that's what I did last year. I did that same thing where I ended up shooting 2 does super early. Actually, take that back. I shot 3 within the first, I think, 2 weeks. It was kind of a challenge back and forth between me and a buddy of mine, but he killed 2 in the first day. So he was on public, which makes it even more crazy, But we did a lot of that too with the does. That's something that I've started doing, is shooting more does, and not just because of the management aspect of it, but I've got buddies that travel all over, helping them fill a freezer, or helping somebody who needs a little extra in the food, or whatever. I like being able to have it on hand, or when Christmas is around, here's a bunch of deer sausage, or whatever.
Yeah,
that's like the coolest part about being a hunter, when you're like, here's some deer sausage. They're like, you killed this? Yeah, I killed that. So, but yeah, like that doe management, on your property, I could understand that, not necessarily taking a lot of them out there, because like you said, your neighbors are going to take a ton, or however many they take out in that season.
Yeah, there's several other hunters around me that shoot does and other bucks and stuff. I'll go in. Last year I shot one old nanny doe, and I was like, Bryson's gonna shoot a deer this year. Hopefully was gonna get Taylor to shoot a deer. She almost did.
Yes, she did.
And
I know.
I was like, I'm just gonna shoot one doe, and I'm gonna focus on getting Bryson a deer, and then I'm gonna focus on a buck for me. And it all worked out.
It worked out. Well, I mean, when you've had time to perfect your craft there at that place, and I think a lot of people, and me included, I do it. I catch myself doing it, where I overthink that situation. And it's kind of simple. Once you set that observation and you find out where these deer are moving year to year, and then you grow from that, and you've got to that point where I can sit right there and shoot 140-inch, 150-inch deer probably every year. And to do it on 19 acres is like, that's impressive, man. That really is impressive. It's super impressive. There's a guy that...
It's probably a lot of luck. But I'll take the luck.
No, dude, you explained it to a T, like how them bucks were moving through, how them bucks move through there, man. You know that's where they're going to check them does, and you hunt that right wind. That's 1,000,000% of why like people are successful. Is that I think wind's probably the most important thing, period. Not just for yourself, but when the way your property lays. You know that there's doe bedding, that's going to be right behind you, and bucks are going to come check that, at some point. They're going to do it. So, and you combine that with your wind, you pretty much got yourself dang near a bulletproof situation where you walk in there, you're gonna have a 80% chance or better, probably of harvesting a nice buck, or even just seeing a bunch of them in that sense. But that's sweet, dude.
Yeah, that first year was mostly just I was still trying to understand how deer worked, honestly. But
right.
I just found the travel corridors, and I put some stands out there, and put tons of cameras out.
Do you think the cameras helped or hurt, like multiples? Because at that point, you weren't using cell cams at that point.
No,
you were using regular cams.
That was me going deep into the property and bumping deer out and doing all the things you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and luckily, I hung that stand in between those two ridges, because I was like, well, maybe I can hunt both the ridges if I sit in the middle of it. Yeah, kind of. But luckily I got that 132-inch buck on that one. But
so what do you think that scenario was for that guy? I mean, like, you didn't think it was where you needed to be, obviously after you'd sat it a little bit. Did that change your mind at all, or did you just...
I'd only hunted that stand like 3 times.
Gotcha.
Because I was sitting in another stand. I'm like, reading stuff and looking on YouTube and stuff, and I was like, big bucks like ridges. Why am I not sitting on that thing? Mm-hmm. And early one morning, I just carried some climbing sticks in a stand out there and climbed up the tree, and saw quite a few deer come through there. And then a couple sits later, that big 132-inch split G2 buck came by, and I'm extremely lucky that I shot that.
You keep saying extremely lucky. I think there is luck to it, but
that shot was extremely lucky.
Oh, the shot was extremely lucky.
I only had one spot on that far ridge where these other bucks have been, and it was 40 yards through a little bitty opening. I was like, there was one log over there, and I just kept range finding it. I'm like, that's 40 yards. If a buck comes through here, that's 40 yards. I need to remember that. And oh man, it was early, like 6 a.m. I rattled a little bit and look up, and top of the hill, there's a big buck. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. He's just looking around. So I hit a little grunt, and he walked right to that log that I ranged at 40 yards and stood broadside, and flung an arrow at him, and he spun around and took off. And I was like, I completely missed that deer. There's no way that I killed him. He ran over the hill and was blowing. So I was like, I'm going to sit here all day, so I'm going to go get that arrow. I climbed down and looked over. There was blood everywhere.
Really? Where'd you hit him?
I actually hit him right in the neck.
Really?
When he spun around, he spun towards me. And I guess that where the vitals were is where his neck turned to, and it went straight through.
Wow.
And he was dead 40 yards away.
He blew and everything, though. That's what's wild. Like, he got up there and blew, like, after he was hit. I had a deer last year.
He was mostly trying to blow the blood out of his lungs, but he didn't make it very far.
Wow.
And I was just shocked that
there's
that
a lot of that whole neck. Like, I've seen quite a few people shooting that, and be really successful shooting deer in the neck. You know what I mean? Even with bows.
I definitely try not to.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, but I've heard that, several different times where people are like, man, I didn't think I killed him. Or they watch footage back and they're like, oh, I hit him in the neck. And I'm like, dude, no, you need to check that out. Cause I'm telling you, like, there's a pretty big artery that runs down through there. I mean, it's pretty easy to hit.
just the angle of it, and I had an expandable broadhead on there in the entry hole.
What do you shoot as far as your expandables, or do you have like you changed year to year?
Rage chisel tips.
Okay, gotcha.
Just, I mean, people hate them,
but
I've had zero issues with them.
You can't hate them when they bring you stuff like this, man.
They've killed a lot of deer, but the entry was 4 inches. The exit was 8.
Oh, that's insane.
My poor taxidermist, man.
Yeah, dude. No, he was like, dude, yeah, it's a lot of sewing.
I honestly dropped it off, and I was like, if you can't fix it and you can see it, I don't care.
Right.
Because it's an awesome story.
Right. That is insane, though. Like 4 inches. It just must have been at the way that the angle of it.
I guess when it just went like down, and
when it went
through the other side, it just went all the way across the neck.
Really, that's incredible. Chad shot one, which I had on the show last week, actually. And he shot and it hit both like right in front of he hit in front of the shoulders. He was aiming for it, to go right behind the shoulder, but he moved just a little bit right there at that when he squeezed it off. And when he brought it here, I was waiting for it to be, right where he shoots him every time, and I'm like, where did you even shoot this dude? He's like, dude, that was the most crazy shot I've ever seen. It hit him like right underneath the, it would have been his right front leg, and it came out like all the way across his chest, blew out it blew out the heart, and I think he somehow nicked a lung or something. But it was such a weird angle that you would have thought, oh, no way, that deer, is gonna die or whatever. But he didn't go far either.
Thinking it's just a brisket shot.
Yeah, 100%. And last year I shot one during bow season, and it was actually I was telling you about earlier. I went back and forth, and I was watching where those bucks were crossing. And I sat down and I'm look up, and there he come up across the field. I was like, oh man, he's right there. And I was sitting on the ground. I was actually going to check a trail camera because I was like, man, I'm not seeing what I need to see tonight, so I'm just going to go check a trail camera. And then I had about 15 minutes left to dark, until dark, and I was like, I'm just going to sit here right by my trail camera. I was literally sitting underneath my trail camera at the tree, and he come out there, and I shot him. I think I hit him in no man's land, dude. Like that one sweet little spot that there's no vitals, no nothing, because he bled we tracked him 736 yards in 2 beds and never did find that deer. Like I couldn't believe the amount of blood that came out of that deer, and we couldn't find, we couldn't find him. I don't know if he ran in the neighbors. Heck, he could probably be tucked in a creek bed down there somewhere. I'd imagine he could be under a log. You know what I mean? Like, you never know but yeah, that's the roughest part is like when you feel uncomfortable about like that shot. It's like that, it just almost guts you. You know what I mean? You're just sitting there going, man, did I hit that deer like I needed to?
I hate it.
If you wouldn't have got down, you would have.
I would have stayed there all day.
You stayed there all day.
I just stared at that arrow all day.
All day. That's hilarious. So another thing that you had some pretty awesome success with was youth season this last year.
Yeah.
His son won't let him live it down. Like, it's kind of hilarious. He puts his buck next to his dad's buck, and it's actually pretty funny. We'll have to get a picture of that when I come over for that, because that's pretty hilarious. But
yeah, my first deer compared to
your first deer compared to his boy. He's like, no, that's my dad's, and then this one's mine. Yeah, he's pretty proud of that buck, which he should be.
I was super proud of mine. It, smaller than my hands.
Yeah. It's just, dude, you couldn't even put your hands around the bottom of that buck that he shot, dude. It was an incredible buck. But I think we're gonna have you back up for a youth season portion, and you and your son. Hopefully, we have the new studio built and we got a little bit more room. But there's just something about hunting with the kids, whether you're going or me and Chad touched on that last week too. There's just like, we need to get more kids out. We have so much. There's so much that goes on where these kids just don't want to come outside. It's like, I think hunting is probably one of the best things, or fishing, whatever you want to do. Just get them outside.
Oh, my kid's a fishing machine.
Oh, dude, my girls love it.
Winter.
He's been asking you all winter.
He's like, "Can we go fishing?" I'm like, "It's snowing." But we can still go fishing.
We could still fish, though. The fish are still alive, Dad. But yeah, we're gonna have you up for that. Actually, I got some photos of that deer. We'll give you a little teaser of that thing. That's pure joy right there. Like 100% pure joy. But so that hunt was actually pretty intense too, as far as like like how, like you weren't expecting it. It was one of those real unexpected moments. When you explained it to me, I got to laugh. I'm like, dude, I've only had one moment with my kid like that, where it's, oh man, that's a big deer. You know what I mean? But how did you manage that, like, yourself? Trying to coach him through that moment, and he seemed like he handled it pretty well.
I saw that deer because it was right before daylight, and I mean, I could see that deer out in the field, and I'm staring at it with my binoculars. He's taking a nap. He has no idea this deer's standing out here. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. This is a giant.
Mm-hmm.
My heart's racing already, and it's not even shooting time yet. I'm like, we haven't even got a chance to shoot this yet. I'm about to die in this movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like 5 minutes before shooting time. I'm like, hey, buddy, wake up. There's a buck out here. And I mean, he's up.
He was right out. He's like,
were
oh, wait,
you even
what?
sleeping?
Yeah.
He just pops right up, and he's like, where?
That's awesome.
I'm like, we still got a couple minutes, but he's got to come in, because he was like 150 yards out.
Right.
And there was some does like 50 yards away from us, and he was pretty much just corralling them around, just making sure they didn't go anywhere. And that buck finally moseyed into about 60 yards, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to open the window. You need to get ready to get on this thing. And I mean, my heart was just pounding, going crazy. And he finally got him in the scope, and I'm like, okay, are you on him? Yeah. I'm like, you want me to stop him? Yeah. So, man, buck stops, and he's looking around. I'm like, all right, you can shoot him. He's like, I can't see him.
Oh,
like,
oh no.
I'm like, what do you mean? So he couldn't find him. And that buck started walking off. He went out to about 100 yards. And I'm like, all right, buddy, just hold on. I'm like, just calm down. Secretly, he's probably just calm.
Yeah, you were the one that was having a moment. Like, he was like, I'm just doing what you're telling me to do, Dad. Like,
and so I pulled out my grunt tube, and I grunt at him, and he comes right back into about 50 yards, perfectly broadside. But he wouldn't stay still. He just kept kind of walking around, and he couldn't get on him. And I'm like, all right, buddy, I'm gonna grunt at him again. Like, are you gonna be on him? Yeah. So I hit the little map. He stopped, looked right at us, and I'm like,
oh, he knew that
it's
time.
over. And I'm like, all right, you ready to shoot him? Oh, I can't see him. Oh my, oh no. No. And at that time, some other bucks hopped the fence on the other side of the field, and he walked off to go,
push them out,
push them away from his does, and he stopped right at 100 yards broadside and was staring at him for, I don't know, probably 5 minutes. And I was like, are you on him? He's like, no, I can't see him. So I leaned over, I put the rifle on him. I'm like, okay, just stay right there. If you got the shot, shoot him. He's like, you want me to shoot him now? I'm like, if you have the shot, pull the trigger. And he drilled him.
just absolutely smoked him. That's awesome.
He mule kicked. He ran like 30 yards, spun around the field, and dropped.
How was that moment though? Like, all that anxiety built up. It was like, when you have that moment, it's like, oh, you did it.
As soon as he mule kicked, I was just like, dead deer, done. And I looked over at him, and his eyes were as big as these
coffee cups.
He just looked at me like, I'm like, dude, you killed a freaking giant.
Yeah.
You just shot a giant. And he's just all smiles and wide-eyed.
Oh, dude,
it's
like the best.
To realize what happened. Like,
oh, yeah.
Dude, that is a big deer.
What did you say he ended up scoring, or did you get him scored yet?
Not officially. Rough scored. He was 155 and 4/8.
Jeez. And his bases, you said something about his bases last time I was up there. What was his bases at?
One is 6 inches and an eighth, and the other one is 5 7/8.
Jeez.
I mean, honestly, he has that deer beat in mass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure.
If he had some time length, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah. No, he would have topped your biggest one. Yeah, for sure. He wasn't far from it. Like,
no.
he wasn't far from it. That's freaking awesome, man. That's probably one of the, that's like the best part, of being able to hunt too. For me, is it's just getting your kids into that moment of, not just, they think we're out hunting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always say that, it's like they think we're hunting, but we're just out here having time. The deer is a bonus if they get that opportunity. But then when you have something like that happen on your first, it's like, whoa, that's going to be hard to top for him for a long time. And that's good on you.
Expecting to find a fork.
Right.
To shoot. I'm like, whatever the first buck that walks out here, we're shooting. The first buck that was out there's 155. 5-inch deer.
Yeah, you're like, but that's that's a really cool moment to have with your kid, man. Like, there's no better feeling than like one having the success of it. you know, and two, having that adrenaline rush because, you know, he's going to have a long time. He's going to have a hard time topping that deer.
I told him he's got to shoot spikes or something for the next 15 years to make up for it.
Yeah, he's got to pay his dues. He didn't even have to pay his dues. He
Like,
just
man,
had it happen.
You need to suffer for a while.
That's awesome. Anyway, let's get a little bit back to what we're talking about as far as like property. Are you going to do anything different this year? Are you going to try to do any controlled burns or anything like that as far as getting your underbrush? I know you were talking about that earlier. Or is there any plots that you're going to possibly talk about doing, or are you just going to leave it?
that blind that I moved, it was on a food plot, and just the access to it's terrible. So I've actually went back to the original food plot that I tried putting in. I mean, I just cut down like 4 or 5 trees and tried to throw some clover seed out real quick in 2017. So that last year, we moved that blind, and I cut down several more trees, and it's a little bit bigger now, but it's still not developed yet.
Right.
I'm limited on time.
Right.
But it's pretty much right at the bottom of that valley.
Okay.
And I mean, stuff grows there.
So is that pretty easy to get to though? That area is pretty easy to get to. It's got good access.
When you walk in, you hit the log road. I mean, you just go straight to the bottom of the hill, climb in the blind, and you're
Gotcha.
in there and good.
Gotcha. It's just a platform. Did you take off the other thing and you put like a regular blind up?
Yeah.
Is that how you did it?
Set a blind on top.
That's how I did mine last year too.
So much
less hassle. Like it really is. You can take it down, put it back up. The deer aren't bothered by it. You know, it just. I don't mind tower stands. I grew up hunting quite a few of them actually. My dad and they'd bring out a pull truck and they'd build them. You know, it was awesome to like be a part of. But you know, over the years, you drive past those things and you see them, you know, and they're tore up, you know, and they fall apart, you know, and that part sucks because then you got to disturb everything that you've created to build it again. So yeah, I like the hub line on a platform, and you don't decking, you don't got to worry about nothing.
My poor father-in-law helped me move that thing, and I did not skimp on the wood.
Yeah, he was heavy.
I used full boards. I was like, I'm not bringing a saw down here. I got a drill, and we're just putting this thing together. It's 8x8.
Oh,
and it's with 2x12s and 6x6 posts.
Yeah, so it's
got 2 layers of plywood on it. So this thing's 1,000 pounds.
Oh, I bet.
And I flipped it up and we got it on the trailer, strapped it down. He's walking behind me as I'm pulling it with the side by side to the other side of the property. And we get over, and I kind of back it somewhat close to where we want it, and the straps are breaking. I mean, they can't hold this thing.
Right.
And I'm holding on to one side, and we undo it, and it just takes off, and I have nothing to hold on to. And he's trying to hold this thing down. My trail camera was right there, and it caught a picture of him flying through the air holding it.
That's awesome. Dude, your 20 cameras paid off in that one moment. That's awesome. Man, I wish you had told me how to put that picture on here. That'd have been hilarious. You have to get a picture of that to me. I'll post it to the page, man. That'd be a funny one. That's awesome. That is, so you did move. You're going to try to put, like, is there a way to till and everything down there? Is it all going to have to be pretty much
it's going to have
by hand?
Yeah. It's strictly a poor man food plot.
Gotcha.
There's no, I mean, you could probably get a small tractor down there, but it's going to be rough.
So it'd probably be worth your interest. If you're going to do it in that sense, you'd probably just go get like a regular, like a garden walk behind tiller and have to, you got to do it sometimes, man, when you want to, add things. I was working on a project last year with a couple guys. We were having problems with, those plots that are like that, getting water to them when we had the droughts, and it actually killed a turnip plot that I had put in, and I'd spent a lot of time on, getting it perfect. And so I invented me and a couple of buddies came together. We invented like a 5-gallon bucket system, dude, that works awesome. It cost us like $28 to build, and you fill however many 5-gallon buckets you want. This thing sits on it. It's a little sub pump, and it's a portable power washer. Dude, I could hit like 30, 40 feet with, and I didn't, and all I got to do is carry a 5-gallon bucket down with some Duracells. It's smart. Don't nobody take that, but it's smart, but it's like one of those things you're going to have to do. Yeah. Better patent it. Yeah. Better patent it quick. But no, that's seriously, that helped me in those micro plots where it's hard to get to, man. That's some of the hardest part about getting some of that, those plots in those type of areas where it's like, there's no access in here. Like, and then you got canopies you got to deal with too, that'll kill, your growth. You got to hinge cut so many things.
I've cleared out several trees right there. And
did you hinge cut them, or did you just cut them? Okay, gotcha.
They're all ash trees or something. Gotcha. I'm just getting rid of them.
Right.
I mean, my plan is to make it about 40 by 50 yards. You know,
Right.
not a huge one.
Well, you don't need a huge one, especially in that transition that you're
I
in.
got ag fields around me. They're not starving for food.
Right.
I just want something for them to come browsing through real quick
Yep.
and go on their way.
Yeah, that little quick transit, that feed plot and transit. I had a good one for that. It was a little turnip plot 2 years ago. It worked really good for that.
Luckily, I don't have to worry about water though, because it's right at the bottom of one of those field drains, so there's water
flowing through it. So did that actually affect the way you're, when you threw seed? Does it like wash out pretty good in that area, or is it?
Kind of in the middle of it. If we get a big rain, it kind of pushes it, but for the most part, I'm thinking there's some kind of underground thing because it goes like halfway across and it just drops in the ground and disappears.
Weird.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Weird. I mean, there's like, so when I put on 2 different plots last year in different spots. I mainly stuck with brassicas and did that early season, which I don't think I'm gonna do brassicas probably hardly anymore. They were great for early season, but unless you're fencing them off, they're toast. By the time September rolls around, they're toast. Like everything's eaten off of them. Like you just got fat
clover,
turnips,
but they don't survive.
The turnips don't survive down in there.
Clover.
I
mean,
clover.
anything I put in there doesn't survive.
I wonder if it's a pH imbalance, man. I've seen that happen.
And then the deer just come through and nip them all up.
Oh, so I
need to put a fence up.
You need to put a little electric fence up. Dude, there's a lot of people who do that. Put those electric fence up. I've got a buddy in Iowa that does that. He'll do brassicas and he'll start letting them eat on them around like the end of September, early October. And he said that actually pulled quite a few. And after they had that first real good frost, he said, dude, those things were deer in there every day. He said, that sugar that gets on them leaves after that first frost is just killer. And I had that plot up by kind of like a cattle area where the neighbors got cattle. And I actually had cattle that were like sticking their heads through the fence. And, and I had one that actually came in behind me as a big old bull. It came like, I thought it was a deer at first, because I could hear him walking through. And he had crossed the fence just to get in that turnip plot. Like he'd found a way through and he came up behind me. I had my bow ready. I'm like looking around. Here he come up that same deer trail. Big old cow.
Biggest deer you've ever seen.
Oh man, dude, I didn't even want to get out of my stand. I'm like, dude, he is right there. Like he's big. I was like, I'm just going to let him eat. I'm just going to let him do his thing. Then he meandered on off back to his area. But yeah, dude, putting those fences up, I've heard a lot, a lot of good things about putting up, the electric fence. It doesn't really bother them deer from what I understand too much. That'd be the only thing I would think in that area, because it is a transition area.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would affect. I don't know if it would.
I left a few, where I plan on doing it. There's still transition areas on both sides. They could easily walk around until I take the fence down.
Gotcha.
So I don't think it would bother them too much.
Right. Well, you never know. I mean, deer, they that's another thing to get used to a scenario or a year. But every 3-4 years, you're probably having new herds or whatever it is move through anyway. So
Except for old nanny does.
Except for old nannies, I shot 2 old nanny does this year, dude. They busted me both times, and I was like, next time I see you, you're toast. Like they just sit there, they look at you, they stomp their feet, they snort, they act ridiculous for like 20 minutes. Yeah, I had them at 60 yards last year. Yeah, 60 yards they sat last year for me a bunch of different times, and I'm like, man, you come in at 20. I ended up shooting the big one at 7 yards. She had no idea I was there. I didn't even know she was there at first. I was looking at a little buck out in the field, and I just heard it crunching on acorns underneath me. I was like, what is that? I looked down there, and there she was. I was like, oh, dude, she's toast. I grabbed that bow. I actually got a pretty good footage of it. I smoked her, dude. Like, she went 20 yards, piled up. And I'm like, she needed it, bud. She busted me all the time. I was surprised she didn't bust me that day. She's good at it.
It's crazy how smart they are. But I'll do my doe quota for the year, and my number one rule is you don't blow at me.
Yeah, you don't blow at me.
You're done.
Yeah, you're dead. You're blowing, you're done. I mean, weirdly, like, it doesn't seem to be most of the younger does either, too. It's usually just those old nanny does that make a fool. I mean, and that's because they've got age and they've got, obviously they're smart, at that point. But I try to keep a lot of the younger does on there. I'll take a few. I'll take probably 1 or 2 a year off that spot, down closer to this place I call the Crab Call, because it's a really good transition area, but it's horrible to hunt in the beginning of the year. So I've got a spot that like sets off of it, where these does, like, they'll kind of skimmer and move through this spot, but it's close enough to where I can watch down in there. and I'll try to take younger does off of that area because I know during that ruddy time, them bucks, they do not. If there's a lot of does in that area, like honestly, the fawns and stuff, they make all that commotion when they try to bed down and be themselves or do their own thing. That commotion, I watched it happen 2 or 3 times last year, where little baby, little bitty fawns running around in that tall underbrush, and it spook up them big bucks every time almost. And it's like that's what I didn't understand about the doe population when it came to that, and that's why they were doing that. Up until last year, I've been hunting a long time, but like up until last year, I didn't really think of it in that sense. Like why doesn't he? It's the rut. He would love to be around does, but they really just don't like the rambunctious ones. Like the rambunctious, crazy young deer.
Yeah, if they got to fight them to get them down.
Yeah,
I think the nanny does are more susceptible. They've had several years. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
The younger ones, they just take off.
Right. And them older bucks, man, they'll chase them till they're dog tired too. And they usually, and honestly, I've seen does get the buck tore down where he's wore out, man. You could see it, and he'll pin her up against a back of a lake or a river, and you could just see him panting, just hard. And she's just looking at him like, and it's like, man, you should know better than chase after that 2-year-old doe or 3-year-old doe, dude. What are you doing? Like, she's going to wear you out.
It's my favorite time in the woods.
Oh, man. It is.
I don't even care if I get a shot, just watching them run through.
They're beautiful, man. It's a beautiful thing watching, like, you're just kind of immersed in that situation of, there's no other thought. You know what I mean? That's like the coolest thing about like just getting in a tree. And I tell people that all the time. Deer's a bonus. You get in that tree and you just get to immerse yourself. Fred Berry used to talk about it all the time. Just get in there and it'll cleanse your soul, man. Like you just got to get out there and do it. And it is. It's people ask me all the time that aren't big hunters. Why do you do it? It's like, well, one, I like venison. I'm a huge venison person. 2, it's just that's my therapy, man. It is. It's 100% therapy. I think hunting, in my opinion, or at least for me.
Yeah, that tree stand therapy.
There's nothing better.
There's not much better than that.
No. Well, especially when you got stuff like that walking around your woods. That therapy, it's not even therapy at that point. When that guy walks out, you lose your mind.
Yeah,
when you see something like,
after seeing something
yeah, you need therapy after you see something like him walk through, for sure. Touch a little base more. I'm gonna try to do a kind of a side note here. I'm gonna be doing a turkey tour this year, so hopefully we see some of you guys out there in public land. We're actually gonna get Corey a bird this year. It's like
good luck.
Yeah, it's Liam Neeson. Good luck. Like I completely we're gonna do it. I do have I got a funny picture of you crawling at a bird through my binoculars, and that was when that Tom was breeding that hen, and you were crawling right to him. I was like, dude, he's actually gonna make this happen.
It's the closest I've ever been to a
bird. That's hilarious. But yeah, I'm going to do one. We've got a buddy of mine. Well, he's my uncle, actually. It's going to be coming up from Louisiana. He's a 5-star chef at Dave's Bayou. He's awesome chef. So he's actually going to go on his first turkey hunt with me, and we're going to try to get a bird, and then he's going to prepare it. We're going to do a live stream too, so we'll probably have you up for that too, and like do a little bit of fun stuff there. But we're going to hit.
First time I've had wild turkey.
Wild turkey. It'll be the first time. It's amazing. There's something about wild turkey that I mean, it's just, it's weird because like, and turkey's turkey, obviously, you get it from the store, you get it from there. I do notice, I think there is a difference. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I think there's a difference when it's out in the wild. I can't tell you. But yeah, it's going to be one of those seasons where we're going to do a youth hunt. So if your boy wants to come out too, holler at us. We're going to be doing a youth hunt. I've got a pretty awesome 20 gauge. That my girls and my buddies' girls use.
We're going out with the NWTF.
Oh, nice.
He got a spot on.
Your son did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
he
no
got
joke.
a reserve spot on Core Grind on Mark Twain Lake.
Oh, dude, that's going to be awesome. With a guide. Oh, dude, you're going to have a ball, man. Do you got somebody filming it?
I mean, I can. He's going to be sitting on my lap.
I got some good cameras, man. I'll let you take one with you. It's actually right there. I just got this one ready to go. This whole setup, if I can grab it, looks a little ridiculous right now for a camera, but just right up behind them, man, they don't even notice it's there. It breaks it up enough. I know it looks kind of overkill, but it really does break it up to where them deer or them turkeys just ain't even look past it and get right over that shoulder. But yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. Core ground. So what do you have to do to get into that? Like, as far as, do you just put in for it, or is it just like any other managed hunt you put in for?
Well, we're a part of the NWTF.
Yeah.
I'm part of the federation for the only thing that I can't kill. But yeah, we my wife's grandpa is actually pretty big around here in the chapter, the Nemo chapter up here.
Okay.
And you know, they take kids out that have never shot a turkey every year, and we were just like, well, you know, it's his first year, we can try to get him in there, and he got a spot.
Heck yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's gonna be like a moment, man. Like, man, he's gonna kill a bigger bird than you've ever killed. He's got a bigger buck than you did on your first one. What are you doing to this kid, man? In 4 years, he's going to be out hunting you, man. Like, he's just going to be good. You know, you did your job right if he's out hunting you in a few years.
He can go shoot does on his bucks.
Just tell him to stay away from the bucks. You're going to get to a point where you're going to buy a little bit more acreage, man, because he's going to be shooting your giants, and you're going to be on doe patrol.
Yeah, hopefully.
But, no, that's awesome, man. I guess we're going to wrap it up here pretty quick. Like I said, we're going to do that youth season premiere. We'll have you back on with your son. Hopefully we have the new studio built. It's kind of all timing, you know how everything's going with like wood prices and everything. So, it's just like robbery right now. It's crazy. But yeah, we're gonna do a youth season portion. We are gonna do another youth season turkey portion, which will be coming up the weekend before turkey season or youth season. So, what is that? April
next weekend.
Is it next weekend? April 2nd, right? Then
yeah,
you got then the 8th. Yeah, the 8th will be. Yeah. Holy crap, that is coming up. That's coming up quick.
Yeah, I'll be in Florida.
You'll be in Florida? Oh, dude.
Me and a couple buddies are going down there to hunt alligators.
Oh, no joke. Really? Yeah, you definitely we're gonna have to get you a camera to go do some stuff. Me and Chad bought a couple more for our. We're gonna do like a side series together and get behind some hunters, you know, and it just makes it like the whole hunting and self-filming is it's a craft. Like you really, 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 really got to know what you're doing. I tried it last year and the year before, and I still suck at it. Like it is so hard, you know, to like, you know, he's good at what he does. Chad, he's an awesome person to hunt with. He's probably one of my favorite people, if not my favorite person to hunt with. And he's kind of showing me the ropes, you know, as far as self-filming and everything. But I told him this last year. I said, dude, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to sit behind each other, you know, during those key parts in time. And that's what we're going to try to focus on this year. We're going to drop it. We actually haven't even dropped our name yet. We haven't even done anything for it yet, but I've got some promos and stuff that I'm going to come out with, and it'll be fun, man. We're going to have guests on. We're going to do some, we're going to go a couple different places. I think we're going to try to hunt Michigan this year on some public land. So if you get some time off for that, that'd be a fun one. My uncle's kills some giant deer up there. He's got a good farm, but we're going to try to hunt public. We're just going to hunt public, strictly public, because that's what he loves to do. So we're going to do it that way. But yeah, we're going to get cameras. We're going to get some cameras and people out there. Oh, dude. That dude knows his stuff, man. He's just one of those guys that like, he walks in the woods and he can pick it apart. Like he'll just walk right through and go, yeah, they're not in this area. I mean, and he does things that it's funny because he does things that like you wouldn't even think to do. Like he was on the show and I've been hunting with him for 3 years now. And he said that the other day, he said, yeah, the whole brush and tracks where you can't put stuff on public land. Or, you know, trail cameras on public land. And he goes, yeah, I just go to creek bottoms and different dry bottoms or, you know, anywhere where there's a heavy trail, I'll scrape it flat, come back in 3 days. If there's one track, I know that there's not very many deer. That's just one deer going back for 3 weeks. He said, if I come back and it's packed, I'm setting a stand up 20 yards from it. You know, he's like, I know. And I'm like, I would have never even thought of that. You know, even on your home farm, you know what I mean? Like even there, you can't tell the difference in a trail, but just something as simple as taking your boot, rubbing that stuff away, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes total sense. You know what I mean?
Last week, and I was like,
yeah, that blew your mind a minute. It's like, why did I not think of that? Like, yeah, but he does stuff like that, man, where he gets in those positions and he's just successful, man. He shoots giant deer on public land like every year. The deer that was actually on the show last week, well, he shot a different one. It was on the wall. I actually missed that same buck like 3 days before that. And he let me tell the whole story about how I missed it. And then he told me he shot it after I jabbered for like 15 minutes. But yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. We're going to try to get people engaged, and we're just trying to bring that whole community of everybody. You know, the hunting world it's getting more and more popular, and there's more and more people sharing the woods. And so that whole, you know, courteous type thing really is what we try to touch on with, you know, if you're going to be on public land, you know some of those little ground rules. They're not really rules because it's everybody's land, you know what I mean? But just be courteous to each other, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you're out there and it's hunting. You know, we've got, you know, rifles, black powder rifles, you know, bows. It can be stressful, or it could be let's work together and, and do more of that, so we're going to try to travel. We're going to go hang out with people. We're going to be chill. We're going to, we're going to have a lot of fun just getting out there and getting in the woods and meeting people. But anyway, I'm going to let you get. Thanks, guys, for watching the show today, whoever tuned in. And like I said, hit us up with comments or anything, what we can work on, what I can't work on. If there's a topic, or heck, if you want to be on the show and talk, just our message on our Facebook page is up all the time. We're pretty laid back with what we do. We just want to bring the community together one story at a time. So anyway, we're going to check out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.